Okay, let's move on, and we'll head to Asia tonight. And 4 democracy activists who've been executed, no question marks around their death, by Myanmar's military in what is believed to be the first use of capital punishment in decades. The 4 men, who included Ko Jimmy, a lawmaker, and Zaya Thao as well, who was also an activist, were accused of committing terror acts. They were sentenced to death in a closed-door trial that rights groups have criticised as being unjust. One of those is the Deputy Asia Director for Human Rights Watch, Phil Robertson, who joins us on TalkTV tonight. Phil, thank you for very kindly hanging on. You were due on the show a little bit earlier, and you've been very, very gracious in hanging on. I'm really pleased we've got to speak to you tonight. Can you tell us about these 4 men? Who were they?
Okay, well, thank you very much for having me. Jaw Min Yu, who was Ko Jimmy, was a leader of the 1988 democracy movement, going back, all the way back to the period when the last people were executed in Myanmar. He was someone who was an activist, a poet, campaigner, a strategist, considered to be a senior political person in the country. He spent, he was executed at age 53. He spent over 20 years of his life in prison under the previous military dictatorship. So this is a guy who's a real dedicated activist and very, very well known. The other guy that is very well known, Pyo Zayar Ta, was a elected member of parliament from the National League for Democracy Party of Aung San Suu Kyi. And, he was also well known as Burma's first real hip hop artist. He was a youth leader and came up through the party and was, very well spoken, very well respected. And then we had 2 other activists, Aung Turaza and Lam Myo Aung, who we know less about, but they were also accused of terrorist acts. Let's be very clear about this. This was done in a closed court before a military tribunal. There wasn't anything even remotely fair about either the charges or the court proceedings. These are kangaroo courts that sentenced him to death. And we're very shocked that they actually carried out the executions, because no one had been executed in Myanmar since 1988. It was essentially a de facto moratorium state, a country that, despite having the death penalty on the books, had not exercised that for many years. And we were surprised as everyone else that they actually went forward with this.
I see. What is beyond the points that you've made, of course, Phil, what has their international response been?
It's been outrage, frankly. I think that a lot of people were surprised that this went forward. We've had the UN Secretary General speak up. We had the foreign ministers of the Group of 7 nations issue a strong statement. Many other governments have spoken out as well. And I expect that this is going to fuel another round of possible economic sanctions targeting the military and its companies in Myanmar, and trying to cause some pain so that they reconsider what they're doing. It's been very, very difficult because the international community's attention that was present last year after the military coup in February 2021, has really diminished. It's gone to other places in the world, Ukraine, and other spots where, of course, there's a lot of suffering and very serious problems there as well. But what's happened is everybody's forgotten about Myanmar.
And one of the wives of one of the activists who was executed has urged the country's people on that point not to stop their fight for democracy and not to sort of be kind of cowed, I suppose, to go forward with a victory spirit. What are the chances of these executions triggering an uprising of some sorts in the country, Phil?
Well, I think that it will certainly. I think it will intensify the dedication of the people to fight back against this military. We've already seen basically a civil war developing, and it's getting more serious day by day. You have people in these things called People's Defense Forces, or basically local militias forming in villages and towns. You have other groups, ethnic armed organizations, which have been fighting for many years, and they've now made common cause. And so our sense of it is one of the reasons that the military decided to execute these 4 people, including these 2 very prominent people, was to try to intimidate the people of Burma, to try to force them back into their houses, to force them to give up. And I think there will be the exact opposite reaction. We're already seeing more attacks. And to be honest, the country is really sliding into tit for tat violence, with both sides increasingly targeting civilians. We've seen the security forces in Myanmar also committing crimes against humanity. And let's be clear about what that means. The military helicopters into an area, they drop in the soldiers, they suspect they're insurgents in the area. They basically shoot anybody who runs. Men who are captured are tortured and executed. Women are raped. And the entire village and area is burned down. And we're seeing this across many different parts of the country. This is a military that is out of control. It is pursuing scorched earth tactics, and it's been given the green light by these military coup leaders who are trying to do anything to hold on to their power.
Extraordinary story. Phil, articulate and insightful on that tonight. Really appreciate your time. Thank you. We'll do it again soon. You'll be hearing from us again. Phil Robertson, who is the Deputy Asia Director of Human Rights Watch, with the latest and some reflections on those executions earlier this week in Myanmar. Just a troubling story for any sort of liberal democracy to watch on what's happening there. It's you can't help but feel moved and hopeful of a resolution and a breakthrough at some point. Okay, stick about. After 4 tonight, we're going to continue our international news hour and 15 minutes or so, because John Bonfinglio is standing by for us in South America. He's in Mexico. A couple of stories to get into in South America tonight, including in Brazil, where they've reported their first monkeypox death. It's the first monkeypox death outside of Africa. We'll also talk about Mexico's struggle with droughts, and Venezuela and Colombia have agreed to re-establish diplomatic ties. That's significant as well, and it's one of those things that feels, all those stories really feel sort of far-flung and like they don't have much of a bearing on our lives, but they do. They matter. They really matter. So we'll ask John why and why we should care. It's on Talk TV next with you as well. 0344 499 1000 if you want to say hi.